Today I'll be talking about 10 books that I own that I would like to read, that I'm genuinely very excited to read, but that scare me. All of them are at least 500 to 600 pages long, and it's not that some of them are difficult to read, but they all require some level of commitment that I don't really have right now, and I'm not sure when I will have it, but I would like to have it so I could read them, but I don't know when I'll have it, so I don't know when I'll be able to read them. Starting off at number 10, we'll start off with a banger, y'all, and that's Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. I got this for free from For the Love of Reading TT, which is the Trinidad and Tobago version of, I guess, Little Free Library or whatever. Otherwise, I would have probably not spent money on it, and the only reason why I picked it up is because it is a very popular and well-known book, and it's one of those books that I almost feel like people view it as like a rite of passage. Like, if you read Infinite Jest, you can say that you've read Infinite Jest. I don't even know what it's about. It says it's set in an addict's halfway house and a tennis academy, and featuring one of the most endearing, screwed-up families in contemporary fiction. Infinite Jest explores essential questions about what entertainment is and why it has come to dominate our lives, about how our desire for entertainment affects our need to connect with other people. This sounds really freaking boring and very much up my alley. The Odyssey, and this was translated by Robert Fagles.
Oh, what you said? Queen.
This one, I mean, the text itself, it's written like, I guess you would call this in verse. It's an ancient epic. I would not necessarily say I'm intimidated by this, but it does feel like something that will be a commitment. Like, I can't just read it when I, need something quick to read. It's gonna sit on the shelves for some time before I get around to it. This is actually one that I attempted to read, and I didn't realize how far I actually got into it, 150 pages, because I left the bookmark in it, and this is a really cute bookmark, so I will be using this. But the book is New York 2140 by Kim Stanley Robinson. This is a science fiction novel that takes place in a futuristic New York in the year 2140, if you couldn't discern that from the title, where because of climate change and the rise of sea levels, New York has essentially become a kind of Venice. So instead of getting around by car, people have to get around by boat now, and they are using sky bridges between buildings and stuff. It's a really fascinating concept, and I was really enjoying this story. The reason why I didn't finish it was because I was reading this at a time where I was reading so many other books, and this is a book that it's not that it's that dense or difficult to understand. It's a pretty straightforward book in terms of the writing, but because it's such a vast story, because it's so long, because there's so many subplots and things going on, because we're reading from the perspective of so many different characters, it does require a certain level of commitment and focus. So hopefully we can get back to it soon. I really love the concept of this story. I think it's a fascinating concept, and I do really, really want to read it. I have a popular favorite classic of everyone's right now, Dune by Frank Herbert. Now, the only reason why I picked this book up is because while I'm somewhat interested in the story of Dune itself, when the movie first came out, a lot of people were having discussions about whether or not Dune is racist. So the thing about it is, this book is set on a planet that is very desert-like, and from what I understand, Herbert took a lot of his inspiration from the Middle East, and particularly the Nabatean people. And so a lot of people say that this book or this series or this story is Orientalist, and I actually kind of wanted to read the book and read a little bit more into the series and watch the movie adaptations, and also read Orientalism by Edward Said, which I have to read anyway for school, and I'll be reading it a little bit later this year. And I thought it would be an interesting thing to do a video essay to kind of dissect the Orientalism in this story. Not to be like, oh, Dune is racist, and if you like Dune, you're a racist. No. But to sort of kind of understand, okay, what was it that Herbert took inspiration from, and what biases and through what lens he looked at this culture and these people. I'm very curious about that, and that was my whole reason for wanting to read Dune. I can't promise that I'll do that video anytime soon, but it is something that is always kind of stewing in the back of my mind. And so whenever I get around to this book and I get around to Orientalism, I'll decide whether or not that's something I think is worth doing. And obviously there's tons of people who have written about the topic, so that's something I'd want to do a little bit more research on as well. Another sci-fi, we have a lot of sci-fi today. This is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey, which is the first book in the Expanse series. This is another book that I got for cheap, used. And even though this is longish, it's about 550 pages or so, it's not really the length or even the fact that it's sci-fi that intimidates me, but the fact that it's the first in a series of probably over 10 books at this point. I have limited brain cells and shelf space to commit to like a 10-book long epic sci-fi series, but I also kind of want to commit to a 10-book long epic sci-fi series. We also have this book, which is just, I don't even know how to describe it. This is called S by Doug Dorst and J.J. Abrams. It's not particularly big, but it is very intimidating. S is not a book, it is a reading experience in which you read a book that is called The Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka. Now this book is not a real book, like it's a real book, but it's not a real book. I don't know how to explain it. Like the whole concept of S is that it is a fictional reading experience. So you are reading a fictional book that's not just fiction, but the book itself is fictional that exists in a bigger story. The author is also fictional. And the bigger story is that you are reading the book, but you're also reading the annotations and the additions of people who are reading the book. So it's about these two people who pick up the book from a library, and the book even, it's supposed to have like a library sticker on it. I think somebody moved it. I think it was supposed to have like a library sticker because it's a library book. When you open it, it says book for loan. It looks purposefully like, I'm afraid to open it because there's like a bunch of stuff in it. Like this is an envelope. What's in this envelope? There's like annotations and stuff and little things like stuck in there and people writing like notes and letters to each other. It's really wild. And so you're reading the book, but you're also reading the annotations of the two people who were reading it and kind of going back and forth with each other while they were... This is a monkey. What? Oh! Girl, what kind of Scooby-Doo? Look at this! What is this? It's like clues and mysteries and shit. The wildest thing that I've seen in this book, though, is actually... I can't find it. Oh, yeah. The wildest thing that I've seen in this book is this. This is a napkin. Like, and when I say a napkin, it's an actual napkin that has like a map drawn out on it. I'm so afraid that I'll rip it. What is this? I'm too scared to read this book. What page was this on? Oh yes, I put this to mark the page. Smart. Yeah. Next up we have we have a book that you all know, Moby Dick by Herman Melville. Part of my Penguin drop caps. You might have already foreseen this because it was missing from here. Moby Dick, I don't really feel like I need to tell you all what this is about. It's about, the whale and Ishmael, and he's like looking for the whale, and it's about that, but it's also about like whales in general. It's gonna be a whale of a time. Whale of a time.
We got it, girl. We got it.
The last 3 books I have to talk about are all non-fiction books. The first of which is The Rise and Fall of Ancient Egypt by Toby Toby Wilkinson. I really want to read this because I just genuinely want to learn more about ancient Egypt other than watching like National Geographic documentaries. When I look up information about like the best books to read on Egyptian history and particularly on ancient Egypt, this is like one of the main recommendations. So I'm hoping that this will be worth the read, and I'm hoping that I will take away a lot from it, which I expect that I would. The next 2 books are world history books, one of which I definitely am very excited to read one day. It is called The Silk Roads, A New History of the World by Peter Frankopan. This is a world history book that looks particularly at the history of the Silk Roads and its significance. And the Silk Roads, if you didn't know, and do I even really know what the Silk Roads are? I think they refer to the trading routes that existed in Asia for centuries and were, really pivotal for not just trade of goods, but, culture and ideas and all that kind of stuff. So definitely looking forward to this one. Another history book that I got recently that I'm very excited about is called The Dawn of Everything, A New History of Humanity by David Graeber and David Wengrow. This is also a history of the world, but one that is meant to, from an anthropological and archaeological perspective, critique the standard narrative of the history of humanity, from the emergence of our species to the, rise of agrarian culture and then the eventual rise of civilization as we know it and empire. Like, this book is meant to sort of add a critical perspective to how that story is always told. It provides a different perspective, and it leans into indigenous perspectives and non-Western, non-white perspectives, which I really appreciate. So really looking forward to this one, and I feel like this is definitely one that I will take away a lot from. And there you have it. Those are the obscenely large books that I would like to read, but I have no idea when I will have the capacity and time to do so. In the comments down below, if you've read any of these books, I would love to know your thoughts on them. I know I say that for every video, but especially this one, I would love to know like what you thought of these books, if you think they're worth it, if you think they're just like, you know, pretentious pieces of garbage. Anyways, if you've made it this far into the video, I'd love if you could leave an emoji down below to let me know you were here. What emoji should I ask you all to leave? It has to be something big. Things that should not be coming to mind are coming to mind. You know what? Leave a globe emoji of the globe, the world, because, you know, these books are big and, you know, some of them are about world. I don't know. I can't think of anything else. Leave that. I just like to see that people were here, and I like you all to leave comments. So, thanks. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you all have a lovely day, and until next time, inshallah, keep reading. Okay, let's see if this gym membership is paying off. This is actually the first video I might have ever posted in this channel in my life where every single book I talked about was by a white man. I don't know how I feel about that.